And good day, everybody, and welcome to this special edition of High Heat. It's nice to have you with us as we talk to you here in late April about what's going on as far as the world of baseball is concerned. Keep our fingers crossed down the road. Lots going on here, of course, and you can tune in tonight, the MLB Network. The MLB, the show, the 20 Players League recap, which will air at 7 o'clock. We look forward to that. Carlos Santana is involved there. And I'm sure Mr. Francona out there in Tucson, Terry, of course, manager of the Indians, watches, and he says hello on this little edition of High Heat. Terry, welcome. How are you today, pal? Okay?
Chris, how you doing, man? Nice to be with you.
Always a pleasure, Terry. It's good to have you aboard. And listen, here's an opportunity. Santana got a lot of big hits for you, so you can watch him tonight on the show. If people are looking for something to watch, ball players do something, let them play video games. What's your take on that for a second?
I'll tell you what, Chris, I'm a huge Santana fan. No getting around that. But I'd be lying if I told you I understood the video game. Maybe it's just my age, but I don't get it. But again, I'm probably showing my age, but I am a huge Santana fan. I will admit that.
I agree, Terry. And, you know, I just thought of it. He was up there in that big spot in the bottom of the ninth. Before we do the Jordan stuff, bottom nine 2 years ago against the Cubs after the Rajai Davis home run. I mean, he got big 3 outs. Chapman, game is tied. You had the middle of the lineup up. I thought you had a chance. Did you really think maybe with all the momentum, somebody would pop one and you win a World's Championship there a few years ago in the ninth inning at home?
You know what, Chris? You know what I've told a lot of people? When we made that comeback, I thought lesser teams would have lost that. And I'm talking about the Cubs. You know, that's a pretty big gut punch right there. When Rajai hits that home run, you're on the road, all the history, and we had that short rain delay, and they pulled it together, and they pulled a rally out. I thought they won it. I didn't think we lost. And you kind of got to tip your hat to them a little bit. I mean, it hurts, but like I said, I think lesser teams would not have come back and won that game. I give them a lot of credit.
100%, I'm with you. And Chapman got the 3 big outs. Listen, the whole world's so into this Jordan documentary. He did a lot for your career in a different sense, baseball-wise. I think it probably helped you get the Phillies job, Terry. You had to learn how to work with such a big-time star, Red Sox down the road. I'm fascinated with your relationship with Jordan. How did it begin there when he showed up in the minor leagues with the Birmingham Barons? Go ahead.
You know what, Chris? First off, it was probably the best learning opportunity any person could ever be thrust into. And I didn't even know that at the time. Shoot, I was a young manager, man. I'd been in AA for 2 years, and you're trying to do the best you can. You're just happy the games are on radio. And then all of a sudden, here comes Michael Jordan, and your whole life is turned upside down. But like I said, it was a great learning experience. I learned to manage my time, to be more organized, to deal with media, to deal not only with Michael, but trying to keep the other 24 guys on the team feeling every bit as important as Michael.
Yeah.
Because everybody wanted to ask about Michael, which I understood. But I had 24 other guys trying to get to the major leagues. And so you're trying to balance that. There was a ton of learning involved. And like I said, I didn't realize it at the time. I was just trying to survive. But when you look back on it, there was no better way to learn.
And he was coachable, right, Terry? He always was in the NBA in his whole career. You taught him what you taught him, and you had to handle him because, you know, you were his manager. So if you wanted to get on him, you could get on him. But he allowed you to do so, correct? He was not one of the guys. He was not an elitist athlete. He allowed himself to be coached, correct?
You know what, Chris? A couple things I learned. He was intelligent. He was comfortable. He worked hard. And then when you actually think about it, there's no way you can become as good as he did without those things. And then the biggest thing that really helped us was his respect for the game of baseball, because there needed to be a lot of patience because he just hadn't played very much. That wasn't his fault. But he respected the game so much that made it work for all of us because, again, he cared so much about the respect factor. And I know it was kind of a time when it was easy to get on him about playing, and I saw some of the things that were said, but I got to see him with his guard down and how he treated his teammates and the coaches and the game. So it made me want to really be protective of him.
So he went on all the bus trips, Terry. He sat in the back of the bus there for those 8-hour rides throughout the double A Southern League back in '95. He did all that stuff, correct?
Yes, 8 hours. Are you kidding? That was one of the shorter ones.
Yeah.
That's a tough bus league, man. No, he did everything. He stayed in the same motels we did. He did everything, man. And he didn't have to. He even would show up sometimes. We used to take the guys on the road in the mornings to lift weights and the condition. And I told him, I said, Michael, you do not need to do this. I said, this is going to cause a circus. But he'd show up every so often just to show the guys that he cared. And it never ended well, because people ended up flocking over, and it ended up being an autograph fest. But he was just trying to show the guys he cared.
Did you call, whether Dean Smith, Terry, did you call Dean or Phil Jackson before that season to get a little read on him, or did you just kind of let it flow as soon as he showed up at spring training?
No, you know what? The day I found out he got assigned to the Birmingham work group, we had about 4 days of spring training, and I just went up to him and said, "Hey, man, just take a deep breath. Said, when we get to Birmingham, we'll talk." And I saw him kind of take it. Oh my goodness, because everybody wanted to be his coach. You could tell, everybody wanted to be around him. So to have a few days where nobody was crawling down his back, I think he was relieved. Then when he came to Birmingham, we sat down and talked. And I told him things that were important to me and to our team. And he was a part of our team from day one. And that really, for him to pull that off is pretty amazing. Because, again, this is a guy that, he's arguably the most recognized athlete in the world. And now he's riding a bus. And I actually thought, when we were on some of those bus rides, I'd look at him and nobody could get at him. So he could let his guard down. And actually, I think that was some of his funnest times.
Interesting. And a lot of people have said that when he got back to the Bulls after the minor league experience, he had a little more empathy for the journeyman kind of player. So that's a good sign there. How about you personally? Listen, if I'm a GM wanting to hire a manager and I'm looking at Terry Francona, hey, hold on now. This guy handled Michael Jordan? If he can do that, he can handle Kurt Schilling. He can handle David Ortiz and Nomar Garcia Power. I would think that the experience, having managed that kind of athlete, even though he wasn't a great baseball player, had to go a long way for your own career, Terry. How about that for a sec?
When, we went to the fall league after our season with Michael, and Lee Thomas, who was the general manager of the Phillies then, and I don't remember this, but he said he came down and I got an autographed ball for him for his son from Michael. And I actually don't remember doing that, but I told Lee at the time, I said, Lee, I knew if I knew you were going to interview me, I got you a bat, a ball, and a glove.
Yes, indeed. No question. When he went back to the NBA, did you follow that team that was 72-10? You're a good sports fan. I'm sure you're on top of the return that he made to the NBA with those 3 subsequent championships, Terry. How about that?
Yeah, I did. Shoot, I'm a sports fan anyway, but then when you have an interest like that, and one of the really cool things that happened was, it was a Sunday. I remember we had a day game in Birmingham, and he was on his way to the stadium in Chicago, and he called, and he said, hey, he goes, I just wanted to let you know, he goes, I enjoy basketball more now. He goes, it amazes me how much you guys love what you do. And that, to me, that made the whole thing worthwhile.
Wow.
Just him recognizing that, I thought that was really cool.
100%. One last thing, Terry, give me some thoughts here for a sec on if and when we do get a spring training. Yeah, it's going to be brevity. They're going to want to play as many games as they can, so you're not going to get 6 weeks to get guys organized and everything else. Can Terry Francona put together a spring training in Arizona and get something accomplished in 2 weeks to start a season? Are you capable, as the sport, can you do that after this long pause? What's your take there?
You know what, Chris, what my thoughts are on this? I think every single person in baseball needs to be flexible right now. We may have different thoughts on different things, but this is going to be a unique year. I think we're going to need to treat it like that and put our complaints in our back pocket and shove them in there. And this can actually be a celebration if we do it right. But we got to do it right. And one of them is by being flexible. And I mean everybody. And I'm talking about myself included, the players, the owners, everybody, to make this work where it can almost be like a celebration.
Good job, Terry. Good to talk. Stay healthy. Keep in touch. Find a swimming pool. Go swimming. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much.
Chris, thanks, man. Thanks for having me. See you.
You got it. Mr. Francona, great to have him with us, and a good job, of course, for Moses today, Mitch Green, or the fellas. We'll see you, of course, in a couple days along the way on High Heat. Stay well.